Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Here when you need us most. Now and always. Operating Engineers, Local 825. Summit Health, a provider of primary, specialty, and urgent care. New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT, makes industry-ready professionals in all STEM fields. New Jersey Sharing Network, NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. The New Jersey Education Association. And by Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. Promotional support provided by CIANJ and Commerce Magazine. ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey. And by Insider NJ.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to a very important and compelling program. Two separate half hours. In this half hour, we're going to be interviewing the 56th governor?
You got it.
The 56th governor of the great state of New Jersey, the Garden State Governor Phil Murphy. In a second half hour, you'll see separately the governor's Republican opponent, Jack Ciattarelli. We might as well call this program, Governor, on the issues, not the politics, but the issues. You okay with that?
I'm great. Good to be with you.
Great to be with you. And by the way, remind everyone that the election for governor is, in fact, on November the 2nd. And make sure you learn about the issues, the candidates, and you vote. Governor, let's start with the most pressing issue of our time on many levels, so many aspects to COVID-19. What has been the biggest lesson you have learned to date as we tape this program on the 23rd of September, 19 months in, the biggest lesson about leadership and, frankly, about being governor?
Yeah, again, it's good to be with you. And the loss in New Jersey has been overwhelming. Over 27,000 losses of life, an awful first wave, a tough second wave. We're still in the fight as we sit here. It's not as bad as it was by a long shot, but it's not as good as it was a few months ago. I wouldn't trade our hand with any other American state as I sit here. In terms of the level of vaccination, we're among the most vaccinated. We've got the smallest number of ICU beds occupied by COVID patients of any state in America. Those are good facts, as tough as it still is. I think the biggest lesson of leadership, Steve, is to get a balance right. And I've said this before, but Churchill, early World War II, when the Germans had overrun the continent and the Americans were not yet in the war, if I could channel a fingernail of Churchill, it would be balancing, telling folks the absolute truth, even if that truth really hurts, make sure that they understand the facts, but at the same time, giving them a realistic path forward of hope, of optimism. If we do X and Y together, this is the path that will get us out of this really dark spot and this dark moment. And that, to me, is that balance has got to be there. You got to give people hope, but you got to tell them the truth, even if it hurts.
In that spirit, Governor, I asked you this about, I think it's 6 or 7 months into the pandemic, and I want to return to it because you know more now. We know more now. But the decision to send patients who were in nursing homes, got COVID, or in hospitals, back into those nursing homes. Approximately 8,000 people, a little fewer than that, but every life matters. 8,000 people who went back into those nursing homes died. Question. Do you regret in any way the decision to send those patients back into nursing homes without the nursing homes, because you told me last time the nursing homes needed to do certain things, they may not have done them. Do you regret that, A, and B, what do you take from that horrific experience, mostly for those families?
Yeah, I mean, the loss, the pandemic in general, but within the pandemic, the tragic loss early on, especially in long-term care was the tragedy within the tragedy. I have to roll the tape back, though, Steve, so forgive me for challenging a little bit of the premise of the question. A couple of things. Number one, they're not patients. Remember, this is their home. They're residents in these places. And we have to remember that they were returning home. Secondly, we were crystal clear in my own voice, in the executive orders from myself and or Judy Persicelli about the protocols for anybody returning to their residence who had been positive for COVID. They must be separated by floor, wing, or better yet, building, and the staff that serve them had also needed to be separated. So you did not mix populations. We also said, and by the way, if you can't do what we've just asked you to do, call us and we'll help you do that in some other residence until this thing passes. By the way, very few folks ended up calling us. Did operators behave badly? Potentially, yes, and they will be dealt with, or they have been dealt with. But our instructions and parameters were crystal clear.
So I just want to be clear before we leave this. The Department of Health has jurisdiction over Judy Persicelli, the Commissioner of Health, who's joined us many times. They had jurisdiction and regulatory authority over those nursing homes, correct?
Well, there's a number of different elements of government. You've got Human Services plays a role. The Attorney General, which has investigated, plays a role. The Department of Health, in fact, has fined a number of operators. But it's a number of different areas in the government.
I just want to understand this. Are you saying that you and your administration took the nursing homes at their word that they were going to separate people and do what they needed to do? Because clearly it didn't happen to the degree it should have, because New York and New Jersey had the highest number of people die in nursing homes during the particularly early months of COVID.
Yeah, by the way, that ultimately happened almost everywhere, Steve, sadly. It was not, at the end of the day, it wasn't just New Jersey and New York. The way that you deal with this industry, which is the normal process, you make them attest. You request an attestation that they affirmatively understand the rules of the road and commit to abiding by them. And that's the basis upon which, now, are there spot inspections? You betcha. But that's the basis. They agree affirmatively that they understand your executive orders and that they commit to abiding by them.
You know, Governor, as we do this program, there are commercials out there. And again, we refer you to public broadcasting and other respectable sources to find the accurate information that you need to know to vote on November the 2nd. So commercials are what they are. But some of the commercials out there that your opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, is putting out there, one of them that really is interesting, quotes you in saying, I'm not sure what the context was, Governor, but if I have this wrong, you'll tell me. You've never been shy about that. He keeps saying this over and over again that you said, and there's a spot of you saying that if you are a one-issue voter, that issue is taxes, we are probably not the state for you. What does that mean? Because his interpretation of it is that you don't care about the taxes people pay.
Yeah, which obviously is not the case, and that was taken out of context. I will say this, if you're a one-issue voter and your issue is taxes, I can tell you right now, he's not your guy unless you're a millionaire or the CEO of a big corporation. The point is this: we inherited an affordability crisis in this state, among other crises. And from moment one, we have been chopping away at that. And we have had a laser focused, especially overwhelmingly, on the middle class and those who dream, as I did in my family growing up, who look up and want to someday get in the middle class. So when we talk about affordability, whether it's income taxes, property taxes, healthcare, how much college costs, how much access to childcare, that's what we have been attacking from moment one. And I would say, by the way, and this is also a fact, my opponent has said that he supports President Trump's policies. President Trump is the one and his party who pushed through the cap on the state and local tax deduction, which is the biggest tax increase on middle-class families in the history of our state.
A $10,000 cap.
You betcha.
What has that done, Governor, to the state of New Jersey, particularly homeowners?
I think its impact, Steve, has been masked by the pandemic. Now, first we saw the census results and all these folks who said there are moving vans up and down the state and people are leaving. Guess what? It turns out some of those moving vans were bringing people in, and our population grew substantially. Secondly, since the pandemic, even more so, as you know, and you and I have talked about it, you've had an outmigration from that vertical urban living and working reality into going to suburbs, and New Jersey has been a big winner in that respect. So I think those trends, or that trend in particular, has masked the hurt that middle-class homeowners, particularly our seniors. You know, somebody, someone said at one point not that long ago, that the SALT cap, lifting the SALT cap would help wealthy homeowners only. My answer was, that person who said that hasn't been to New Jersey. This is overwhelmingly a middle-class homeowner, especially senior middle-class homeowner tax increase. And again, it was brought by President Trump, supported by my opponent. It's crystal clear. We got to undo that. I'm going to fight to get that cap lifted if it kills me, which it might.
And yeah, I've heard you say that before, Governor. And you know what's interesting? State and local deductions, state and local taxes, SALT, that's what it stands for. I just want to be clear. And by the way, Governor, we asked people what would be the one question you would want to ask the governor and his opponent. And hundreds and hundreds of people. I want to thank all of our media partners for gathering these. But Governor, one question that came in, and there were so many people who asked it in different forms, and I want to ask you about this. When it comes to education and the mandates, public school education, the mandate for teachers, as we speak on the 23rd of September, to be either vaccinated or to be tested on, define that regular basis, Governor?
Probably somewhere between 1 to 3 times a week, depending on which district you're in and what the public health reality looks like in that district.
So for the parents who are frustrated, me included, and again, there's no one to blame, the pandemic is what it is, what is the message you want to share with parents who are so uncertain because the schools are uncertain, because the virus is uncertain as to whether our kids are in, out, they have to be masked. They're not exactly sure who's vaccinated because teachers are not putting their hands up, if you will, or getting tested on a regular basis. What is your message to all of those anxious, nervous, and very concerned parents?
First of all, I don't blame them. Count me in that same category. This thing has been brutal on our mental health, on our kids, on things like learning loss, the lack of being able to socialize. Who could blame anybody for being frustrated after what is now going on 19 plus months of this? So we've been guided, Steve, by 2 principles on the back to school reality. One is it's got to be safe. And we believe that mandate to get educators and all school staff vaccinated by the middle of October or face multiple tests, up to multiple tests a week, we think that is an incredibly important component. And by the way, important to note that educators start at a very high level of vaccination to begin with. So I can't give you an exact number. I don't know that anyone has an exact number, but it is meaningfully above the state's number. And our state's number is among the highest percentage of folks vaccinated in the country. And then on top of that, and again, it brings me no joy at all. We got to ask folks to wear masks, at least for now, everybody inside that school building, including the students. We think that combination keeps everybody safe. The other principle, I've already said it once, but I want to make sure everyone knows, we've got to push back against the learning loss. The learning loss was overwhelming, and we know that the best way to push back on that is to be in the classroom together. And those are the 2 guiding principles for us back to school.
Governor, we're up against a quick break. I promise we'll be right back in just a few seconds. But I want to ask you this. A lot of people on social media also asked us this question, parents. Why not the virtual option? Just if I can get a quick response to that, why not having the virtual option as well? Because
the learning loss is so significant, and we've got the data to back it up. Virtual learning, by the way, everyone was a hero associated with it, but it doesn't come close to the richness of the learning that you get in a classroom.
That is Governor Phil Murphy. Steve Adubato here. We'll have former State Assemblyman Jack Ciattarelli in a separate half hour on the issues. We can't cover all the issues, but the issues that matter, that we perceive that are most important to you. The election is on November the 2nd. We'll be right back right after this.
Many of New Jersey's children have been affected by COVID-19. But now that there's a safe and effective vaccine available for children ages 12 and older, you can help make COVID-19 history by getting yourself and your child vaccinated. Let's end this pandemic together and help all children get back to being kids. Visit HackensackMeridianHealth.org/COVID-19 to learn more or to schedule a vaccine appointment today.
Welcome back. I'm Steve Adubato. That is Governor Phil Murphy, the 56th governor of the great state of New Jersey. Governor, quick follow-up. We've been involved in an initiative you're well aware of. We've also spoken to the First Lady about this, called Reimagine Childcare, looking at childcare, not just because it's childcare, but childcare directly connected to the economy, people being able to work, et cetera, et cetera. As we do this program late in September, a mandate about all those in child care centers having to be vaccinated or tested on a regular basis, and 2, 3, 4-year-olds with masks. You're confident that that's the right way to go?
Yeah, listen, it doesn't bring me any joy, but it's what the CDC recommends. It's what all of our neighboring states are doing, and it mimics the K through 12 protocols that we have. People ask me over the past couple of weeks, you know, what about a 2-year-old keeping a mask on a 2-year-old? And I have complete sympathy with this. So we just got to ask everybody to do the very best job they can. We're basing this, again, even if it's unpopular, politically or otherwise, we're basing these decisions not on politics, but on science, the data, the facts, and the facts and science and data tell us this is the right thing to do. By the way, Steve, I hope not forever and always. I hope this is a temporary phenomenon and we can get back to completely normal reality sooner than later.
Governor, the other thing that brings you no joy to talk about is the fact that at least 1/3 of the businesses in the state are closed, particularly smaller businesses. The restrictions, the shutdowns, some industries impacted more than others, some deemed to be essential and some non-essential. In looking back, it's easier to be a Monday or whatever day quarterback you choose. Do you regret any of those decisions, particularly early on, that had to do with those businesses and the restrictions and the shutdowns?
I think, Steve, if you base your decisions based on the facts and the data and the science, as painful as this has been for small businesses, and believe me, there are examples up and down littered throughout this state, you gotta put public health before economic health. You have to. And you look at states around the country that did it the other way around. And as we sit here, Southeast, Southwest, you've got raging pandemics, hospital ICU units filled up. We had no choice. Now, I will tell you what we've also done. We have put, other than California and New York, we've put more money on the street than any American state. And they're a lot bigger than we are. And we'll continue to do that. We have, whether it's loans, grants, equity, you name it, we will continue to pump support into our small business community. The good news is we think about 30% of them. Bad news is 30% of them closed. Good news is you see a lot now either reopening or others stepping into their shoes. We want to get as many people and businesses on their feet as fast as we can, and we'll continue to be there for them.
By the way, just joining us, Governor Phil Murphy, Steve Adubato here, Jack Ciattarelli in a separate half hour. Governor, so many questions came in. And by the way, this is encouraging that so many questions came in asking about infrastructure. And as we do this program, follow what's going on in Washington, follow NJ Spotlight News, Metro Focus, and other places you can get accurate information on a day-to-day basis. Governor, infrastructure, energy, so many questions about that. Give me a minute or less on the combination of infrastructure, energy-related issues, and our economy.
Yeah, it's a game changer for us. We're the most densely populated American state. We have a disproportionate share of legacy assets. Any bill that gets through Congress, whether it's just the hard assets or my preference, it includes hard assets and a lot of the so-called softer infrastructure, New Jersey's a disproportionate winner. We have a master plan for a 100% clean energy economy by the year 2050. we've finally flushed these crazy myths. Either you could have a clean environment or you could create jobs. We're doing both. Look at offshore wind and the potential for union jobs there. This is all game-changing stuff. And sadly, look at the storms of a few weeks ago, Ida in particular, which took 30 lives. Look at the climate resiliency infrastructure that we so desperately need. Again, anything out of Congress, game changer for New Jersey.
Real quick on Ida, Jack Ciattarelli, some others, Governor Murphy didn't act quickly enough. Wasn't enough done to let people know what was going on so they could protect themselves, you say?
Yeah, the record is clear. I mean, we formed a conference call at 10 o'clock in the morning with all 21 county OEMs and the National Weather Service. We activated our emergency management.
OEM, Office of Emergency Management. You had me on that acronym, Governor. That's emergency management people?
Yeah, from all 21 counties at 10, we activated the state's emergency, the so-called OEM at noon. We did a press conference at 1. We sent out social media warnings. Phones got warned. It's an awful tragedy. I've been in many of the communities that were impacted by this. In the South, where tornadoes touched down, devastation, but no loss of life. Overwhelmingly, central and northern Jersey, the loss of life was from water, either in people's homes or in their cars. Absolute tragedy. I am thankful to President Biden and FEMA that we have 12 counties with major disaster declarations, and hopefully, God willing, get folks back on our feet as soon as we can.
Governor, shifting gears dramatically, we're covering as much as we can, but in the most substantive way possible. Governor, much talked about the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility. Shut down, correct?
It is not at the moment, but I've ordered it that it will be shut down. We need to figure out what the next step is, and I've got a team working on that morning, noon, and night.
But being shut down?
It will be shut down, period.
I want to be clear. There was an attack that took place, and you can check NJ.com, other places for this, on January 11th. There was an attack. I'm not going to go into the details, but corrections officers, all of whom that were identified, are being dealt with by the law. There were women who were in that correctional facility. It's a female correctional facility, who said they were handcuffed to radiators, who were raped, who were beaten. It was a pre-planned assault. Governor, this is the question. When did you find out about that assault, A, and B? Very simply, why wasn't the head of the Department of Corrections fired immediately?
Yeah, answer your first question. I can't remember when, but it was very soon thereafter. I can give you a date if I looked at my diary. I was disgusted by this, absolutely disgusted. And we took action immediately, Steve. You got to make sure that we understood exactly what happened. So the Attorney General acted immediately, and I think they've now arrested 10 individuals as a result of that awful, disgusting incident. I put in place almost immediately an independent investigation whose report came out a few months ago. And immediately I made the decision based on that report that we had to close this facility. The commissioner stepped down. We have an acting commissioner and a national search for a permanent solution. We need to turn a page here. And by the way, that awful incident in January was not the first one at that place.
No, it was not. There was a history, Governor.
It's been building for decades. Enough already. We got to turn the page and put this thing in our rearview mirror and do right by these people.
Governor, you've been an advocate for women. You've spoken out on the Me Too movement on behalf of that movement. But I just want to ask you this. The Katie Brennan incident, and again, Google it and read whatever you choose to read about it, but Katie Brennan recently actually on public broadcasting talking about her experience. She was part of the 2017 campaign. She charged that she was sexually assaulted by one of the campaign aides of yours. This is the question. Do you in any way feel that if you could do it again, you would have handled that situation differently?
First of all, what happened to her was awful. Like it is for so many other survivors, I've apologized to her privately and publicly, and we have made real changes inside of our government, and especially as it relates to workplace conditions, training. In our campaign, by the way, run, I might add, by 2 women, a majority female team, with the sort of stuff, training, workplace environment that you would want. The broader society, Steve, in New Jersey, as awful as these realities are for survivors, there's no state in America that has more of an outreach now as a result of a lot of steps we've taken, including by the Attorney General. And those are the lasting lessons that I've taken from that awful experience. There's no question it has contributed to changing the nature of our administration, our campaign, and indeed our state.
Governor, got about a minute and a half left. Make the case, A, why 4 more years and what would happen, and B, if we have time, why not Jack Ciattarelli, please?
Listen, it's great to be on with you. There's no state in America like New Jersey. Let's stipulate that. But for far too long, our state has punched under its weight. We underachieved. We let our people down. And I can say definitively those days are over. Even in the midst of an awful pandemic and tragedy, it is sunrise in New Jersey. And think about the impact, tax equity and fairness for hundreds of thousands of families, increased minimum wage for millions. Thankfully, at long last, affordable health care, women's health care that's funded and protected. College is more accessible for more. We celebrate our incredible diversity. So we've begun an awful lot together, but our work is not done. And the last thing we can do right now, Steve, is to go backward, back to the bad old days. We've got to keep moving forward. The last thing we need right now is extreme leadership in our state. It's the honor of a lifetime to be the governor of this great state, and I'm asking folks to give us 4 more years to finish the job.
Governor, first and most importantly, on behalf of everyone on our production team and our partners and colleagues in public broadcasting, thank you for taking the time to be with us, to talk about the issues, to respond to every question. So I want to thank you, Governor.
Thanks for having me, Steve. It's always a treat to be on.
And same here as having you, Governor. But I want to say this to everyone. It's not my place to do commentary or analysis, but here's the thing. The election's on November the 2nd. Your job, as an American who cares about our democracy, our country, our state, is to not just watch this program, but watch the debates, learn about the issues, learn about the candidates. January 6th spoke for itself. This program, what we do, is about civil, respectful, sometimes disagreeing, but always respectful discourse. That's what we've engaged in with the governor. That's what we will do with Jack Ciattarelli. But just remember that it is your job not only to learn about the issues and the candidates, but to vote on November 2nd. Because last time I checked, Governor, democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you, Governor Murphy.
You got it. Thank you, Steve.
I'm Steve Adubato. We thank you so much for watching.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Hackensack Meridian Health, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Operating Engineers, Local 825, Summit Health, New Jersey Institute of Technology, New Jersey Sharing Network, NJM Insurance Group, the New Jersey Education Association, Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State. And by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by CIANJ and Cmmerce Magazine, ROINJ, and by Insider NJ.
Many of New Jersey's children have been affected by COVID-19, but now that there is a safe and effective vaccine available for children ages 12 and older, you can help make COVID-19 history by getting yourself and your child vaccinated. Let's end this pandemic together and help all children get back to being kids. Visit HackensackMeridianHealth.org/COVID-19 to learn more or to schedule a vaccine appointment today.